Hamas Chief Ismail Haniyeh and one of his bodyguards were killed in Iran, the Palestinian group has said in a statement. In fact, Ismail Haniyeh was killed in an attack on his home in Tehran yesterday. He's one of the most senior Hamas leaders. He was targeted and killed in Iran. Hamas has accused Haniyeh of leading the Hamas political operations from exile in Qatar, and Hamas made the statement on its official Telegram account first. So far, there's been no immediate comment from Israel, but Haniyeh was in Tehran to attend the inauguration of the newly elected president of Iran. We have our reporters tracking the latest details for you at the moment. Vishal and Mohammad Ghazali are going to be joining us with a quick update. It's one thing to assassinate Haniyeh, it's another to do it specifically in Tehran, is what people are pointing out. Vishal, Vivek with us for a quick update at the moment. Vishal, what latest details have emerged that you can disclose to our viewers?
So some of the Hamas leaders have been commenting on the attack that has killed their leader Ismail Haniyeh, as we've been reporting. So one of them has said that Hamas will not stand down; they will retaliate, and they have straight away blamed Israel for the attack. But as you mentioned earlier, Israel has not yet, come out and said that it is behind the attack that killed him. But it is safe to assume that Israel could be behind the attack because as soon as the war with Hamas had erupted back in October last year, the leaders of Israel had, they had vowed to eliminate the leadership of Hamas. And as Ismail Haniyeh was the top leader of Hamas, he was obviously the top target of Israel. So, and there were repeated assassination attempts on his life, and he had survived all of them. But eventually, when he was killed, it was in Tehran, which is a foreign territory, and that raises different questions as to when he has been killed in Tehran, what reactions will Iran have on this? Will it consider this attack as an attack on its territory? Will it go out for an all-out attack on Israel? There have been tensions between both the countries in the recent months. We can recall that Iran had fired hundreds of drones on Israel in the wake of an attack on its consulate in Syria. So there have been tensions all over the West Asian place. So what kind of escalation this will have? There will definitely be some kind of escalation, but that will probably come after after Israel issued its official statement and claims the attack.
Right. But Vishal, if we go by all these reports that are coming in, Hamas's number one leader, Ismail Haniyeh, and Hezbollah's number two, Fuad Shukr, have been killed in the same day. That's a huge development, right?
That is. So we have to, vet these claims for sure, because there are reports suggesting that the Hezbollah top commander has not been killed, and Hezbollah has also reportedly released a statement that he's alive, quite very much alive. But most of the reports, Western media, they're all saying that the top commander of Hezbollah has been killed. So anyway, that's a big development, and that comes in conjunction with this latest that Ismail Haniyeh has also been assassinated. So these two are very powerful groups, especially Hezbollah is quite powerful. It's a full-fledged army that resides in Lebanon. So what kind of reaction Hezbollah has on this, that also remains to be seen. Whether or not there will be a full-blown war between Israel and Hezbollah, as experts had been expecting for a while, that there are many questions that linger at the moment as we speak.
Absolutely, Vishal. Thanks so much for joining us with that update. As my colleague Vishal Vivek is reporting, at this stage, it is genuinely hard to imagine, let alone put into words, the seriousness of what comes next. But we also have with us Mohammad Ghazali with a quick update. Ghazali, Haniyeh has been killed in Iran. Some are arguing that it is very dramatic, but not necessarily a shocker, because Israel called it months before. Israel had clearly said anybody who's in the Hamas leadership is a dead man walking, and that the warning wasn't hyperbole. What are you picking up currently from your sources?
See, first thing, it shows the kind of security in Iran, which is very well compromised, because what we are picking up is perhaps there was a death squad which attacked the hotel or the residence where Mr. Haniyeh with his security guard were stationed or were staying. And he was a state guest for Iran's presidential coronation. So it is a very big kind of setback for Iran as well, because on and off what we have seen, as Vishal was mentioning, that even earlier this year we saw that Iran, when it retaliated with hundreds of drones being sent to Tel Aviv, it had announced in prior, so that was also part of a back channel diplomacy that Iran wanted to escalate it, and yet it was a very controlled attack, and it was very surprising that before attacking or sending drones towards Israel, it made a prior announcement of it and saying that it will take perhaps many hours for the drones to reach Israel. Now, after that, the president of Iran and the foreign minister of Iran were killed in a helicopter crash. Back then, also, it was expected that perhaps Iran will retaliate, though Iran kept saying that there was no foul play, and it was perhaps a technical glitch in the helicopter due to which both of the leaders were killed. But now this particular attack and back-to-back attacks, as Vishal was also mentioning, that we had an Hezbollah commander, who a very key figure of Hezbollah in Lebanon, being assassinated by by Israeli attack, and now Ismail Haniyeh has also been killed. Though Israel is not claiming as such that they are behind the attack, but the Middle East watchers and even Iran claims that Israel is behind the attack. Now the onus is on Iran, because we know the axis of resistance which is operated by Iran through its proxies in the Middle East. Now, all eyes will be on Iran, and Iran is under intense pressure to react. Now, how will they retaliate to this, or whether they will retaliate or not, is yet to be seen. But what is very clear, that Israel perhaps wants a two-front war. They are already engaged with Hamas in Gaza. They are already engaged with Hezbollah on their northern border with Beirut, and now a top Hamas chief getting killed in Iran. So somewhere this attack has certainly put the Middle East on boil, while US was trying to mediate and trying to de-escalate the situation of Israel with Beirut, but now with somebody getting assassinated in Iran is a big escalating situation there. And there is no word yet that how Iran will retaliate to it, but there is a huge pressure on Iran to retaliate to this attack. And we'll have to see that how Iran reacts to it. But what Israel has been doing is that they have been saying, as you mentioned, that every Hamas actor or somebody who was responsible for October 7 attack is a dead man walking. Now, this will also impact the ongoing negotiations over the hostage release, because Qatar was involved in it. And in the last 1 week, we have seen Mr. Netanyahu visiting US, and even there, back channel talks were going on to sort of cool down the tempers in the Middle East, so that players like Qatar, Egypt, and Turkey could be involved for the negotiation to release the remaining hostages who are in Gaza. Now, this entire attack will certainly have an impact on the remaining hostages in Gaza. We'll have to see that how Hamas reacts to it. Though Ismail Haniyeh was a top leader of Hamas, but he was not present in Gaza. He was staying in Qatar in exile. Now, there is another leader who is can say that who is militarily involved with Hamas, is Yahya Sinwar, another top leader of Hamas based in Gaza. So we'll have to see that where are all the top leaders of Hamas? Are they all targets of Israel? How will Israel retaliate to those targets, those military targets of Hamas? And the situation right now is completely confusing, but it has escalated to a level. We have not seen a response from the United States yet, because whenever Israel carries out such operations, it is very well known that US is always in the know of these operations in prior. So whether US was also involved in this attack, or whether US was in the know of the things of this attack inside Iran, because all this while Mr. Biden and his team in the State Department have been saying that they are trying to de-escalate the situation, but this operation certainly suggests that the situation is not going to de-escalate immediately, and everybody will be bracing for an Iranian retaliation to this attack.
Ghazali, thank you so much for joining us with that detailed update. Big questions remain on what all this means also for the ceasefire in Gaza. Vishal, if you could take our viewers through the role that Haniyeh has played in the ongoing war in Gaza.
So as Ghazali was mentioning, he was the top leader. He was sort of the head of the whole political movement of Hamas, and he resided in Qatar, and he sort of furthered the cause. He was an interconnect between Gaza and the rest of the world, because most of the top leaders of Hamas, they reside in Gaza. All the top military leaders like Yahya Sinwar, Mohammad Deif, another elusive leader of Hamas that resides in Gaza. But he was the only a world figure sort of who resided outside of Gaza, though he was born in Gaza, but he was granted an asylum in Qatar because Qatar actually says that it maintains its neutrality, but it gives an political asylum to the top leaders of Hamas. So he was sort of an interlocutor between the rest of the world and Gaza. So his assassination will have a huge effect on the whole situation. This will reshape the war because in the last few months there was some sort of a lull in the Israel-Hamas war. The number of civilians getting killed had somewhat reduced, although not significantly, but they had reduced the daily killings, and there was some sort of that the deadlock was there was some kind of development in the deadlock of these ceasefire talks. So, that will have a very big effect on this because the fact that he was the political leader and he had connections all over West Asia, especially Iran, which sort of funds all these organizations, Hezbollah and Hamas both. So the fact that a big vacuum has been created, who will fill his big shoes, whether it will be some leaders from Gaza or some other leaders that reside in Qatar, that remains to be seen. But he has been in the movement for about 4 decades now, ever since the inception of Hamas. He was a leader. He was one of the members of the political party that was a precursor to Hamas. And then he moved to Hamas and had been, involved with the group for the last 4 decades. And he had been furthering the cause, and he had been actively involved in all the negotiations. And the ceasefire negotiations also sort of hinged on him because he was recognized all over West Asia.
Right.
So his killing will create a big gap, and whether this deadlock situation in the ceasefire will become worse, that is probably a yes. But it remains to be seen because Israel is yet to claim responsibility for this attack. And when it does, but whether or not it does, it's quite clear from both the perspective of Hamas and Iran that they are squarely putting the blame on Israel. And how Iran and Hamas, how they try to respond to this, that will be the biggest, thing to be seen.